Now, as usual on Tuesdays, we have our gorgeous and lovely book critic in the studio. Am I allowed to say that? I am, yeah, I'm allowed to. I'm Andy. Good morning.
Good morning, Andy. How are you?
It's okay to call you gorgeous now, isn't it?
And thank you. You're too kind.
There you go. Thank you very much indeed. At least I asked for permission. Now then, today we're going to look at a book called Two Skins. Now, this is a serious book. Let me tell you a little bit about the author. Kudzai Ma is a social undergrad at Binjua University of Science and Education. He's also a poet and freelancer whose work examines and critiques the New World Order, family and child safety and social functioning. Audrey, when I first read about this book, because the book follows the author's experiences with suicide around his older brother. I mean, when you read something like that, I suppose in a way, I don't know if your spirit goes down, but you kind of think, oh, goodness, is this going to be a really heavy book? Tell me the overview of the book.
All right. For me, I think this subject, suicide, it's now so prevalent in our society. And we always say we need to talk more about it so that people then won't resort to doing it when they hear it from other people. So Kudzai, like you read his profile, is a very deep intellectual person. He opens the book with a quote. He says, "Skin, we live or die in our skins." Yeah. And then he goes on to share about how his older brother committed suicide during the COVID times, and also sharing just what happened in the rural areas. It's such a taboo. And then when it happens, people come up with all sorts of explanations. But he says when they further investigated, they actually found out he had been dealing with a lot of issues. So people are dealing with issues all the time. But because people always look at the front, that facade you were talking about it, they don't go deeper.
Yeah.
You see me today, how are you? Oh, I'm fine. And then I smile. There's actually a chapter which says smiling through the bitterness.
And I think, one thing we haven't spoken about, which I do like about this book, is that what that COVID-19 lockdown did to a lot of people. Things that weren't possibly at the surface came out. And I think locking up someone for when I say locking up, of course, quarantining us for a year, particularly with somebody who has mental health issues or has issues with depression or any kind of issues, can be fatal. And it looks like in his brother's case, is exactly what happened.
That's actually true, Andy. It came with a lot of issues, but I'm also glad that some people even found their calling or their talents during COVID, because now you were actually restricted to your house. Some people discovered baking, gardening, among other positive things.
Yeah, and also some people have discovered to get closer to their loved ones. Right, so tell us about the book then. Okay, we know it's about the older brother, but I mean, obviously it isn't a depressing book. I mean, it's more about using that as an uplifting experience, is it?
Yes. So he talks about the suicide of his brother. He also talks about an ailment that is suffered, a respiratory issue, and he chronicles the issues around that. So earlier on, I was talking about how everyone is sort of battling some kind of an issue. It could be, I have hay fever, someone's got high blood pressure, someone might be taking ARVs. Everyone is always going through something. But then I think as a society, we need to actually talk about these things, not to sort of hide them. That's when people then start thinking that maybe their disease is worse than everyone else's.
I think it's very important to just re-emphasize what Audrey is saying there, in that anyone who suffers from any kind of depression or any type of mental illness, talk about it. And I think we've said this numerous times here on Morning Rush. Speak to somebody, whether it be a friend, a relative, a doctor, a therapist, a psychologist. Please talk to someone. I think it's very important. You're not alone. Now, look, I know, just skimming through the book, there's a couple of issues that I saw here. Lessons, I suppose. Let's talk about the lessons, because a couple I picked up. Importance of social awareness. That's what you've been mentioning. Let's talk about this. Collaborative effort, though. I think it's important, like collaborative effort to heal mental health. I think that, as you said, particularly in the rural areas, it's still looked at as a stigma, but we need a collaborative effort, and I think he covers that in the book.
Yes, and you also then even spoke about it, that it takes a village. So even on one of the lessons, he talks about Ubuntu, that it takes the whole village to raise a person, and we mustn't shy away from that. And then there's also child safety. We're hearing a lot about this. And then just human relationships, outside of the romance, just relationships among peers, among family, they're very important. And then also one quote from the book.
Yeah.
He says, society makes a man suicidal or healthy. What do you think about that?
I don't know. What do you think about that? You see how she puts me on the spot. What do you think about that? Let us know via our Zim Papers social media platforms, our Facebook page, Zim Papers TV Network, and of course at ZTN Prime. Repeat the quote again, and I want you to answer. Go.
Society makes a man suicidal or healthy.
Society makes a man, let's put a person, suicidal or healthy. Well, everywhere I hear man, I always believe it should be unisex, right? So answer that question. That'll be an interesting one. Right, so how does he... Oh, now there's a part I read in the foreword which kind of symbolizes to me something that happened that people don't talk about. Like his gogo, his grandmother, apparently died in the villages. And because of the expense of transporting someone during COVID, they had to get her out to the village to die in the village where she wanted to be buried. And it kind of like... It sounds terrible, doesn't it? That you have to do things in our society that aren't normal to a certain degree.
Yeah, and it's actually very shocking, but you hear of such stories whereby they'll tell you we were advised to actually now just wait for death.
Yeah.
So it comes with that hopelessness.
Anyway, Two Skins by Kudzai Ma. I hope I pronounced that, Kudzai, your name, because it's M-double-A, so I don't know if it's Ma'a or Ma. Let's go with Ma'a.
Ma. And then, so you can find the book for $10, and then he's available on all social media platforms, and he will arrange for a copy to get to you.
Right, so get hold of Kudzai Ma and get. I think it's well worth a read. Two Skins. I think particularly those of you who may need some form of reading material, particularly if you're suffering from any kind of mental issues. Well, anyway, Audrey, thank you as usual. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Konapo, Ipapo pa ZTN Prime, DSTV channel 294, the place to be.